Well, Bradley John Murdoch is dead. This is more than 2 decades after he was convicted of the murder of backpacker Peter Falconio. Joining me live is former NT police officer and key investigator who helped catch this outback killer. Her name, Colleen Gwynn. Colleen, thank you so much for your time. First of all, your reaction to this news today?
Oh, look, for me, the reaction is one of, I guess, frustration and sadness. It's about Peter today, about Joanne and really the Falconio family. I don't give much thought to Bradley and his demise, but it's really mixed feelings today.
Yeah, I'm sure it is, Colleen. What do you remember from that time investigating him, finally being able to make that arrest with the evidence that you'd gathered? What was so difficult about the case at the time? And I'm talking not only about the media spotlight.
Look, I think it was all consuming. So, our life, the team, we were just 24/7 the case. And I guess from my perspective is I dealt mostly with the family and Joanne, and so I had more of that personal contact, and that stuff can be difficult at times because when you're investigating a major crime such as this, you can often remove yourself from the emotion and the grief, the prolonged grief that the family is enduring. And, I was exposed to that not only talking to the family over the phone, but also when I went over to the UK and spent time with them, you really do take that on. And it was a really difficult time, a really significant time in the life of myself and those that were working on this case.
Did you keep in touch with the family and Joanne for years after? Are you still in touch with them?
Yeah, I am. As recently as this morning. My heart goes out to Joan, Luciano, and the boys. And it's really hard to know what to say at times because we always held hope that maybe Bradley Murdoch might provide some information. But, having said that, we still haven't given up hope because it has been some time. He's been locked up in a correctional institution where he's living alongside other inmates, and in that time there's a lot of spare time to chat, and it may be that he has spoken to someone about where he put Peter, and that person or persons may have felt either intimidated or through loyalty not wanting to come forward. And with the reward being out there, it might be enough to get someone to speak to us.
How was the family this morning, Colleen? Are they relieved, or how did they feel? I guess it must be such a weird feeling to hear this kind of news.
They're devastated. I think it's hard for them because they're so far away, and there hasn't been any contact with the police or anyone from the Northern Territory really for 10 years since I left. And I think there's a little bit of frustration, I'll be honest with you, but it's hard to kind of put into words how you would feel on a day like today. You feel a bit hopeless, to be honest.
And what about Joanne? I mean, her and Peter were so young at the time, travelling through the outback, trip of a lifetime, and then this. It changes you forever. Has Joanne kept in touch with Peter's family?
Yeah, they're very close.
Really? Wow.
She's just like a member of the family. Look, they had saved for years. This was their trip before they kind of settled down. They were looking to start a family and start the next chapter of their life. So, this not only threw their lives out, it changed the life for that family and everyone who was, emotionally connected with them.
What was it about Bradley John Murdoch as well? What was it like being in his presence? Because he's protested his innocence, ever since he was arrested. He says it it wasn't him. What kind of person can keep up that pretense?
Oh, look, there's no doubt Bradley Murdoch has a lot of narcissistic tendencies. He's got this entitlement around control, and we know quite a lot about his history. We did our due diligence around the sort of person that Bradley Murdoch was, and he seeks revenge if he feels that he's been wronged. He his want to control every situation is repeated throughout his whole life, particularly with women. And I think in this case, Laura, he lost control. He lost control of this situation. He wasn't banking on someone of Joanne's ability to fight for her life. And as a result of that, I think he panicked, and amount of anxiety probably came over him, and he completely he was in foreign ground, really, because this was a situation he couldn't control anymore, and that was not something that he was akin to.
Do you think it was accidental?
In terms of what, Laura?
Do you think his murder, Peter Falconio's murder, was accidental, or do you think it was, premeditated?
I think it's absolutely premeditated. If you look at what occurred in the hours leading up to Peter's murder, he'd planned that, but what the accident was Joanne escaping. I think that he had planned to murder Peter and abduct Joanne.
Wow. And this kind of thing, it doesn't seem like it's isolated. Brad, talk to us a little bit about Bradley's history here. Was this the first time he'd killed? Are you confident of that?
Oh, look, I think that if you think about his history, and he was a drug runner, that was his job. He would run drugs through some of the remotest parts of Australia. He knew those roads like the back of his hand. He knew them better than anyone, certainly better than the police at that time. And he had a violent history. He always carried weapons. He would revert to violence whenever he felt uncomfortable. He was part of an organised motorcycle gang who actually asked him to leave because they thought he was way too unhinged. So that's the sort of individual that we're talking about here.
Do you think we'll ever know where Peter's body is?
Can only hope, Laura. I think whether he spoke to someone, another inmate, he's been inside for a long time, and you have a lot of spare time when you're serving a term of imprisonment, and those people around him certainly develop loyalties to him or intimidated by him, and say maybe now that he's gone, someone may come forward.
Even if there was a general area that he talked about potentially to one of those inmates, is it still like finding a needle in a haystack?
Yeah, look, that area, unless you have a landmark or something that you can extend your search pattern from, it's very difficult, very, very difficult. However, I can't speak for the Northern Territory Police now, but I can imagine if we had some sort of an area that we could go back and look at, that they wouldn't hesitate to do that.
Colleen, it's so good to talk to you today. I think I certainly remember this entire case growing up. It was something that put a lot of fear in British backpackers wanting to forge that well-worn path. I mean, a lot of Aussies travel around the world as well. It is a rite of passage for us. So it had such a chilling effect on young people in particular, travellers here and also Australian travellers that might go abroad. If there was one message that you wanted to relay to the family today, or if there's one memory about the case that you wanted people to know about, what is it?
Yeah, I guess one of the areas is, you get a lot of people saying that you don't have a body, so you don't have a case. Bradley Murdoch was convicted by jury after extensive evidence, both circumstantial, forensic evidence. And there are a whole range of things in that complex case that says that Bradley Murdoch absolutely committed this crime. And I would stress to those people, read the transcripts. There was a well-known journalist, Paul Toohey, who wasn't a believer, and he said to me, I think you got the wrong man. So I said, well, sit in on the trial, which he did. And he wrote a book as a result of that, and it's a pretty comprehensive perspective of the evidence and who Bradley Murdoch was. So I guess at a day like today, it's hard to kind of listen to that, but we know that we put together a compelling case, and there's no doubt that Bradley Murdoch committed this crime, and I suspect probably other crimes too.
Colleen, thank you for your work. Thank you for talking to us about this 2 decades on. It can't be easy. I'm so glad you were able to speak to the family this morning. I hope that gives you and them some comfort. We really appreciate your time and your work.
Great, Laura. Thank you, and thanks for your time today.